our lunch, entertainment, and thought leadership, we are having a panel on AI hosted by John Pehler. John Pehler is an industry advisor. He's the founder and CEO of E3 Omni. And John has a lot of experience working in e-commerce in the industry. He spent time at Caterpillar, at Grainger, and at Rexel. So I'm going to let John introduce the panel. Let's welcome up, John.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Good afternoon and happy Wednesday, everybody. Really excited about the opportunity to be here with you today. Not just because of the energy that each of you is bringing while you're eating lunch, but the energy that you're bringing to the discussion around how do we actually improve the experiences for all the constituents that we have. But I'm also excited because I get a great opportunity to be on stage and to facilitate some really exciting conversations from 4 incredible industry practitioners and thought leaders. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring all 4 of them up on stage, and then we'll actually do a quick introduction of each of them.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, well, I'm going to play musical chairs and get everybody ready. So starting with, on the right, I've got Rick Lockwood. Rick is the group product manager of the purchase funnel as well as head of digital merchandising at CDW. He'll tell you a little bit about himself in just a minute. Then we've got Yash. Yash is the CTO, Chief Technology Officer here at McLawhorn. Okay? And I've got Jennifer Oskar. She is the Director of E-commerce at Dexter. And then we've got McLawhorn, who is the Senior Director of After Sales and Marketing at Hyster-Yale Group. Right? So welcome each of them to the stage there. So in today's world, I think most of you would agree that AI is probably the most overused and talked about topic. However, it continues to be the most interesting topic that people want to actually get exposed to. And I think that's a really fascinating situation to be in. So when I think about AI and all the strategies that are being created around there, I think it's a little bit more important to take a step back and to talk about our business strategy and the business strategy that each of you needs in order to accomplish your goals. When we think about business strategy, we typically talk about one of 3 key experiences that people have. Right? We talk about the customer experience, we talk about the employee experience, or we talk about the supplier experience. And quite honestly, in my opinion, if you're not talking about the customer, the employee, or the supplier experiences, you're missing out on why you're in business and what you have an opportunity to do. And I don't mean to sound preachy in that regard, but the reason why I bring it up is that many leaders come to me or to other people in the room and say, hey, can you help us develop our AI strategy? And I think that is an interesting dilemma to be in, because if you're building a technology-specific strategy, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to identify the technologies that are most important for you in solving those problems. And when I think about the problems that we have, I want to cite 3 key statistics that I hope will alarm you. A recent study by an industry group was done and said only 1 out of 10 experiences with a distribution or manufacturing website left the user satisfied. 1 out of 10 experiences left the end user satisfied. Another stat came up is that 80% of POCs done within the AI space never make it to market. So that's 4 out of 5 efforts that we all take will never make it to market. And the last one is that only 3% of AI investments actually produce a positive ROI. So if you want to understand why we're talking about ROI, why we're talking about the experience that we have and talking about getting to market, it's because AI is one of the most often misunderstood and mislevered capabilities in our organizations. And that's why we've got this great panel of experts here to talk about their experiences. And their experiences are going to be wide-ranging. So what I'm going to ask is for the first question, I'm going to ask each of them to talk a little bit about their role and what they do, and then we'll get into the conversation around AI. So, Rick?
Sure. Happy to kick it off.
Second metric? Yes. So 4 out of 5 AI efforts never actually make it to, or POCs never make it to market. So it's 80% of investments that you actually make never get to market. So, Mr. Lockwood.
Yeah. So Rick Lockwood, I work at CDW. I've been working strictly on e-commerce for over 20 years. Am I not on? Okay. It's green. Hey, there we go. The old reboot. All right. So Rick Lockwood, I work at CDW. I've been there for about 4 years. I manage our e-commerce purchase funnel, so that's top of funnel search, finding products, the product page, as well as our bottom of funnel of cart and checkout. I also manage our digital merchandising team that's responsible for the product data and taxonomy that finds its way onto the site. And as I was saying, I've been working strictly in e-commerce for over 20 years.
Yash.
Yash, Shah, Chief Technology Officer here at Amla Commerce. Primary role is in product development for both our Znode and Artifi products. I also oversee our customer success / product support. Customers for us are both clients and partners, and our goal is to see how they are using our platform, how are they onboarding, and are they on their path of growth and success. So that's kind of another role I play within the organization. I've been an engineer for all my life and have been doing e-commerce for 20 years. Before that, I was in healthcare and have been here at Amla since inception. So thank you for all of you being here.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Oskar. I come from the Dexter group, so we do trailer parks and axles. I've been with them for about 3 years. Seems like forever though.
Yeah.
I've worked in both the agency space as well as this is client side. So it's kind of interesting for me because in the agency space you give recommendations, right? But you're never accountable for the results. And you're on the client side, not only are you giving the ideas, but you're now accountable for the results. I manage e-commerce at Dexter, and that includes both demand generation and the e-commerce platform itself.
Thank you. And Sarah?
All right, Sam McLawhorn. I am with Hyster-Yale Materials Handling. So in a nutshell, we make forklift trucks. But it's really exciting, and the nerd comes out here when you talk to a forklift person, because if you think about it, we move material from port to home. So if you look around in this room, there's not one thing in here that a forklift didn't touch in its supply chain journey. So we're really everywhere. With that, I've been there for 20 years, and probably one of the newbies to e-commerce, to be honest. We dove into it about 7 years when I was asked, in my current role, develop a sales channel on the digital landscape called e-commerce. And I said that yesterday, I'll say that again. I had to figure out what the difference between APIs and IPAs are, and that's really where my level of knowledge was about that. And Audra is here with me, so meet her if you can and exchange with her. She is really the knowledgeable person, but with that, we'll see what we know about AI.
I think we actually know more about AI than you would imagine. And in fact, the first question I have, and this question I'm going to ask of Yash and then give Jen a chance to answer, but it's like, when did you first get exposed to AI and how has your perspective evolved since then?
Yeah, for me as an engineer, going back to the school days, the idea of machine learning and all of those concepts were taught to us. So, idea of automation was always built into kind of the thinking. The idea of artificial intelligence, as we all know from machine learning, has now gone to what we call it as an AI. So ChatGPT, I knew about it in the research, but in November 2022, it's when it got released. And even I was trying to figure out what are we going to do with this? Is it just changing the idea of Google search or is it more? So that's kind of when I kind of started to explore what we now know AI, or we all know as AI, and understand how it's going to impact business, how it's going to impact technology, how is it going to impact the work we do across the board. So that's how I got into the AI of what's relevant today, but as an engineer, as being kind of aware of machine learning, deep learning, automation for quite some time.
Great. Jen?
So you take me back
Yeah.
because when
We all were aware of it, it's just that nobody fed it to your prefrontal cortex that this is AI.
So the reason I say take you back because if you say machine learning is part of AI, I'm aware of it for a long time. So in my career, I worked with the U.S. Army recruiting community, and back at that time, they were using ROC chat and chatbots. And so if you talk about machine learning, we're working on technology that the CIA developed. So if you define AI, that was very early in my career, and I've known about it for a very long time, but when you say AI, I think a lot of times people think about ChatGPT. And so when that came out, I think I got more exposure from my teenage kids because they were like, hey, my teacher says I can't use ChatGPT to write my paper. I'm like, wait a second, what are you doing? Or my son is in CS now and in college, and he's like, yeah, we sit in class and basically all of my peers write their code using ChatGPT even though we're not supposed to. So I think some people use it as a crutch, but I would say for me, I've been exposed to it for a very long time, but I think the application of it with ChatGPT really opened a lot of doors.
Yeah, I would say that AI has really become at the forefront of the conversation, as we mentioned, whether it should or it shouldn't. And it's because of generative AI or agentic AI. But AI has actually been around in the United States and in the world for over 70 years. Right? When we think through data science and machine learning, there have been great capabilities that have been built. And then with automation, both from a robotic automation as well as robotic process automation, right, it's really started to emerge. But it's great that it gets this dialogue here. Now the question is, how do we ultimately get it to work within our business? So, Sarah and then Rick, I'm curious, can you talk about any ways that you're actually leveraging AI to improve either the customer service experience or the shopping experience in your organizations?
Yeah, leveraging is maybe a bit far-fetched, but we're dreaming, right? So when you are in the parts and service business as I am, so I'm after sales, I keep forklifts running. With that, you often have a purchase journey that starts with a problem. Something broke, and the customer is probably not very happy about it, and they're looking for a solution. Often for us, that means it could start as a case that is submitted, or contact management, some people call it. So people come to us and ask a question. Hey, my engine is smoking, not good. How do we address an increasing number of direct addressed to us questions and problems when we're typically an OE that goes to market through an independent dealer networks? Think car industry. Yeah, we're set up the same way, and in the past, we've always expected our dealers to take care of these questions. Well, more and more, the trend is people want to talk to the expert directly, and they want to have access to Hyster-Yale. So we went on a little experimental journey a couple of years ago and put a chatbot on our homepage, open for everybody to see. It was limited to 6 weeks, and really, at the point, the marketing department, not after sales marketing, the marketing department did this thinking they could generate leads for new asset sales. Although and behold, 90% of the inquiries were what? After sales type increase. Something broke, I'm missing something, I need a tire, who's my dealer? So that opened eyes for us to say, okay, how do we field many customer touch points that way without quadrupling our customer service team, which at that point was our receptionist. So we had a problem. Thinking about AI and how a chatbot can be trained to troubleshoot your issue. For instance, you have I'm going to get techie here with you, an S50 FT, which is one of our forklift models. And you need a user manual. Well, that information alone doesn't give me enough detail to give you the right user manual. That model has been around for 20 years, and things have changed along its life cycle. So you need to ask a couple of questions to get it down to the right user manual and serve you with the right documents in the end. Well, how does that in the end turn into a purchase, right? Well, if you follow that track further, if we could have an AI agent trained to ask you the right questions, what's your VIN, if you speak car talk, you enter the VIN, you give us some more detail around your forklift, and we say, okay, it's document number 12345, and now a workflow starts that sends you on a shopping journey where you can put it in a cart, you can check it out, or you can maybe even impromptu download it digitally. So that would be amazing if we could get there. And that sounds very easy, right? A lot of people do this already, we don't. But that's a dream.
That's awesome. Did anybody else get butterflies in their stomach when they said, hey, Margaret just wants to throw something on the homepage for 6 weeks and see what it does? It terrified me. So Rick, talk a little bit about how you're using it.
Yeah, that made me nervous. We at CDW, we've been integrating AI into every aspect of the website, starting with replacing our sort of FAQs from self-service to an AI chatbot, where they can ask, how do I make a return? What happened with my last order? When is my laptop shipping? And we've seen great success with that. A couple other areas that we've started to introduce AI is in search, and we're testing this now, so about half the people in the room will get an AI search assistant, and we're trying to save the customer and frankly our sellers a lot of time when someone calls up and says, I need a laptop that's this size, this powerful, it needs to be able to run, it needs an AI chip, and they can just ask that in plain English within the chatbot, and it will filter the results for them. Which is pretty cool. One of the surprising things we've seen though is customers are still not quite trusting that we're giving them the right answers. So they say, well, I'd be a little hesitant, and it's probably from the chatbots and things in the past where maybe it's gotten it wrong, but it's so much better nowadays, and we're integrating it into content, image generation, SEO copy on the site, everything to sort of let us catch up. And I think that's one thing in the B2B world. When I started about 10 years ago, I always felt we're about 5 years behind the B2C leaders in the space. And AI has finally given us that chance. We turned around this POC for an AI search assistant in 6 months and had it out there on the site, testing and seeing improvements in search conversion. And so it's allowed us to kind of be a leader in the space.
Fantastic. So Jen, we talked a little bit about what we've seen from a business perspective. Can you talk a little bit about how you're using AI within your personal workflows?
It helps me to not sound angry in my emails. So a lot of times, like you say, marketing says, well, can we just put this up, or can we change the homepage, and why does it take 2 weeks or a month? And it's one of those things where what you want to say probably isn't the most diplomatic way to say it. And so personally, I use it to rewrite my emails, because in the past, I would spend hours getting the right tone, making sure it was constructive criticism, or a constructive way of getting my point across that sounded professional. Well, now I can put what I actually feel, the rage or the anger that I feel, into the chatbot and say, or ChatGPT, and say, hey, make this sound professional, not angry, and constructive, and it spits it out in no time at all. So that's a very simple use case. On the other side, I think the leader at Eaton said, she knows a little bit about HTML and CSS. Well, we don't have a developer on our team. So, we've had code written from our agency partner, and so we can say, well, we want a landing page that looks the same, but this different content. So you can say to the chatbot, here's the code, do this different thing, and it will spit out good code that you can then edit. So it saves time and energy more from a productivity. I would say for myself, if you would have asked me before ChatGPT, how much do you use it? And now today, I probably use ChatGPT at least 10 times a day. And it's made a world of difference and made me much more productive and probably much more pleasant to read emails from.
Now, are you using your company's version of ChatGPT, or are you using your own personal version?
Yes, it is the company's version, because it's something you want to be very careful about, because if you use a public version, it uses that in other people's responses. So our IT group has been very forward-thinking in creating a sandbox version of ChatGPT for us to use. So that way, what I'm saying, or the strategies that I'm coming up with, that I'm looking for refinement for, isn't shared with the world. And I think part of it is also having a leadership that embraces the technology and thinks about how it can be productively used. And so our leadership has embraced it and enabled us to use those tools. So not only me, but all of my team has the ability to use those tools as well.
Thank you for being open with that. So Yash, when you think about your teams, either your team's operations, your workflows, are there ways that you've been leveraging AI to improve the outcomes?
Yeah, we have, but we have to believe, Jen, that they're saying that the data is not shared. We just have to believe that.
Yeah.
There's really no validity or proof that your stuff is not out there. And I say that just from, it's hard for us to prove for these large organizations on how they're managing the data that we're putting, whether it's in Copilot or Gemini or ChatGPT. But we believe that it is protected, right? Right? Everybody believes that it is protected. If you are paying a license, you have to believe that it is protected.
I sense some doubters out there.
Definitely.
Yeah. I see some nods, I see some shakes, we can talk at the happy hour afterwards. Question was for our teams, right? Yeah, so we're certainly embracing it. One example is we do a lot of meetings, and we evaluated a lot of products that are out there in the market that are for notes taking, and we have finally hooked on to Phaeton, which does a fantastic job as a note taker in your meeting. It is not just a note taker, it is like a collaboration tool. So we have deployed that across. Everybody's got to be using it, whether it's internal meeting, external meetings. And it has got good security. So if I'm doing a one-on-one, it is protected for that. If I'm doing a client meeting, it is protected for that. It just not just takes notes, but then you can go in. So let's say if I miss a meeting or I'm not able to go, I go and say, ask Phaeton and tell me everything from key points, whether there were conflicts, because that there's a disagreement or anything of that. It's very easy, like something I can now do in 3 to 5 minutes rather than having to call the project manager or the account manager. So it has enabled significantly saving hours, and the notes that it takes, it is so accurate that everybody is saving time of typing it again, reviewing it, sending it out. So that's one big win operationally for us, and it builds a lot of accuracy. And later, across the project, so say now that transitions to support, you've got a bunch of recordings that is available to just query, and it goes across the whole thing to say, hey, what happened for this feature discussion? And it would give you a summary of that. And now you have so much more data to be more productive, more intelligent with the conversation you're going to have with the customer or the partner. So just one detailed example of how an AI-enabled tool, when deployed and trained appropriately, has been very effective.
That's a great example. How many of you out in the audience are actually using an AI note taker today? Yeah, so probably 60-70% of the audience. And what we found is that there are incredible successes by actually just going and experiencing, what something it can do, and then figuring out whether you want to do it as a formal rollout or even just an experiment with it. But go experience it and see what you got. Now, Sarah, one of the things that's interesting about your business is you're not just actually doing parts, right? You are actually responsible for parts. When you think about a forklift, right, that's moving constantly, and there's a lot of data that can be derived from those. Can you talk a little bit about some of the ideas you have to leverage predictive analytics in order to help customers with maintenance on the products that they own from Hyster-Yale?
Yeah, certainly. So, forklift nerd comes back out, so be forewarned. So in our world, we have made the decision earlier this year and implemented it quite swiftly, and this is way behind the curve, I understand that, but we are now putting telemetry devices on every forklift. So it is sending the usage of the forklift, the hours it's used, who is using it, who's logged into it, if it bumped something, how fast it's going, stuff like that. So as we think through basically the IoT idea of this asset and us now monitoring it from a distance, what are the business cases we can derive from that? Well, one easy thing would be we can now actually monitor the exact hour of usage and then dispatch the maintenance, the periodic maintenance, based on our meters and not based on just, we haven't been there in 3 months, we should better check on them. So that's one use case, and that that is a new product we're actually bringing to market to our larger major accounts that are not quite ready for full fleet management, which we also do, but want an entry level. So that's one usage that we use. But it becomes really interesting when you watch operator behavior, and you can come to a customer and say, Johnny on forklift 123 disappears at 2 o'clock behind shelf A, and sits there for 20 minutes. You might want to go check out what Johnny is doing back there. Or Bobby is bumping this corner at the shelf or the rack that you've set up multiple times a day. Is that causing you damage to your forklift or damage to your product? It might be that the turn is too tight. It might not be his fault, but it could be something with the setup of the operations, or it could be he needs training, which then can lead to us offering that training to the customer or the reconfiguration of the path of the forklift that is taking. So, the last thing, I don't know if that's AI or not, but we have robotic forklifts now, so I think that's AI. Is it? Okay.
It is
So-
hardware-based.
Yeah, okay, so we have, who has a robotic vacuum cleaner? I love mine, mine's called Crumbs. So Crumbs is sort of like the mini example of a forklift going through a warehouse on a path that has been programmed to do. It is learning to understand what is a person versus what is an object. So there's intelligent camera deployed on assets. Many of them then don't have an operator anymore, but it goes through its course of trained path and does the job in a dark warehouse, which I don't know, I just look at my Crumbs and think, that's amazing already. But going through a warehouse with a heavy machine like this, it's quite cool.
What I thought was interesting about that example was the recognition that it's not just about the insights, right? It's also about what is the additional information that you can uncover leveraging those capabilities and making recommendations for structural changes you might want to make in the warehouse based on the data that you're seeing, right? Amazing opportunities to really leverage AI and its capabilities in order to improve this. Rick, this question's for you. I'm curious,
Sure.
What's one AI implementation that has exceeded your expectations in terms of business results that it's provided for either CDW or at another company you've worked at?
Yeah, sure. I'm just thinking about poor Johnny's about to get busted in a dark stockroom. I'll tell you one that really exceeded our expectations was the customer FAQ chat replacement. And it started just FAQs, and then it grew into order information, account information, and that was really a surprise that once it starts working, then we see more customers interacting with it and more chats. So we've seen a rate now where about 60% of the chats can be handled via AI and only about 40% go to our customer service team. Now, that doesn't mean we eliminate part of the customer service team. We've actually retrained them to go into the tool to see exactly what customers are asking, how AI is answering it, and retraining the model on how better to answer it next time so that we can get an even higher percentage of chats that are handled by AI. So that was sort of one that surprised us, sort of like if you build it, they will come, and we've instantly sort of seen this increase in interactions with the customers and positive interactions.
That's great. So Jen, you talked a little about some of the efficiency opportunities that you have. Do you see AI as being purely about efficiency, or do you think there's an opportunity to leverage to drive different modes of engagement and strategic models in your business?
I think efficiency to me is the gateway, right? The easiest thing to do. But as you start to think about Melanie or agentic, it's enabling the sales process. So we deal in our business with dealers or stocking dealers that stock carts, and so they can look at the AI or can look at what they've purchased and also maybe what they have in stock, and then build the order for them and place the order for them. So I think the possibilities are kind of limitless, but our game in distribution, our game in manufacturing is about stickiness, right? So if we make it really, really easy, they don't want to leave us, even if the price is slightly more, but you want to make it easy for them to purchase. So if they don't have to walk their aisles and say, what do I need to order? And all they're doing is checking the quantity, and it already makes the list for them, it makes it easy. And that's why we as consumers do business with Amazon. It's not because Amazon is the cheapest place in town to get what you need, it's because it's so darn easy. Like it's easy, whether it's Alexa that you're asking to order something or going online. So taking cues from B2C, there are things that we can do, and I honestly believe, just like you were saying, it allows us to catch up and leapfrog where we've been in the past.
Yeah, next on our list for our chatbot will be the ability for it to then call out to our CRM and generate a quote, put it in the customer's account, and then they can just, with a couple of clicks, go through our checkout process and convert that quote.
That's great. So Yash, when we start thinking about turning over AI and our data to these tools, what sort of governance practices have you put in place, or do you envision as being necessary in order to be able to support AI so it doesn't just run rampant within an organization?
That's very hard because, there is only so much you can control. And we just talked about like these big organizations, even with your paid subscription. That's my just general comment. We'll come to security. It's not like we're letting everybody use it. But I think in our organization, we have started to adapt AI because in a way where it is a little more choreographed rather than just going wild, wild west, because I don't believe giving everybody a Copilot license is going to say, hey, we are AI enabled. So from a governance, we're just like how we rolled out the meeting notes taker, we added all the security, so all those meetings are recorded appropriately. There are guardrails of who has access to which meeting, just so that conversations are protected. So from a security perspective, we are going to be applying some trainings of how to ensure that what you do is done right. Again, we can't prevent folks to use things outside of their work laptop. That's not in our control. But we're doing everything possible to educate everyone. What are the implications of, if you don't be careful on what you're putting out there, what are the implications both either at a trade level, copyright level, infringements, and things that you have no idea that is going to impact the overall business and potentially your role. So we're taking more of an education route to educate everyone. We just rolled out a company-wide AI course, and it is more so training about AI so that you can be more apt of how you're going to use it. And then our plan is to roll out very choreographed, okay, for dev teams, how is that going to impact, marketing teams, how is that going to impact our customer success, product support teams. So we're going to take it a little more choreographed way to take care of that security and the governance piece. So don't have a magic answer, but I think the training piece is sort of core to what we're going to do.
Yeah, I think the best practices that I've seen in organizations is those that focus in on education and training seem to get the most value out of it, because rather than just putting restrictions in there, then people are like, great, now you're preventing me from using this, I'm just going to go do it on my personal computer. But if they recognize the reasons why you're asking them, you're more apt to actually understand kind of how they might be able to use it. The other thing I would say is put in an AI steering committee, right? And it doesn't have to be the senior most leaders in the organization, but maybe it's good practitioners in the organization that are leveraging AI to drive value within their business, and actually start to share opportunities that you've seen and that you've actually demonstrated results. It's another great way to do it. Well, let's talk about some of the more fun examples, and these are going to be outside your companies, of course, but who's got an example of a spectacular failure that they've actually seen with AI? I'd love to hear some fun and interesting stories that the team may be able to learn from.
Well, I do have one. It's within the company, but we looked at our left. Yeah, we looked at our left navigation, and as you know, we sell very technical products, and so everything has to be exactly the same. When you say 500 gigabytes, it has to be 500 GB. You can't have a space. Can't be lowercase GB. Can't be capital G, lowercase b, or else they all end up as different filters in search. And so we said, okay, let's throw this to AI. And we started to see some success. Chromebook is 2 words or 1 word, it would come back. And so, of course, CTO leadership, get it out there. Just have it do everything. And, we started to see terabyte sometimes comes back as tuberculosis. And, GB comes back as Great Britain. And so we started to say, okay, we can't just go full whole hog. We have to come up and get some rules back from recommendations and have them go through our taxonomy team. And, as impractical as it is, let's have them review all 1,600 rules, starting with our most popular categories. And once you get the rule in place, it's fixed forever, right? And so it was an effort, and it took 6 months, but it's one of those things where we couldn't just let it go wild.
All right. So TB is terabyte, not tuberculosis. Right? Especially
Correct.
in the context of
In computer systems, that is correct, yes.
That's important. All right. Who else has got an example of a failure that they've seen with AI?
So I attended there is a North America Community Summit that's basically they're not Microsoft, but they are sort of embraced by Microsoft. So this is one of the largest community of Microsoft user groups. So I attended they had special Copilot day. This is like right after Copilot had come out, and there was one company, I don't remember the name, but their idea was Microsoft was giving out package deals for Copilot. And they were offering like 300 or some license, and this company grabbed the idea, and the story was, which goes back to the idea of training, our company is AI enabled. And the idea is because everybody has a Copilot license, that was their definition of AI enabled. Afterwards, I find out, I'm like, okay, what do you guys do? It's just like, we gave everybody Copilot. I'm like, okay, then? And there was no answer. So to me, that was like no objective on your AI strategy, just because you had free license, enabling it just for the employee's desktop doesn't give you the outcomes that you're looking for. So I thought it was not a failure, but I was learning. I was there to learn, and I was hoping to learn more, and I didn't get anything out of there.
So this is not the company I'm currently at, but I worked on an implementation of machine learning AI search. And I think we mentioned trust before. I think you're saying customers didn't necessarily trust the answers of the FAQ. And so the way that the search was supposed to work was that AI looks for patterns and machine learning looks for patterns, and it serves up basically what you're searching for based on the order is what converts. So you would think it's a closer match if people are converting at a higher rate. And so we started to do that, except people would say, well, I don't think that's correct. And so they wanted to kind of change or adjust. So when we first launched, there wasn't, I'm going to say, human meddling as much. We just let machine learning AI do what it was supposed to do, and we were getting about a 5% conversion lift, which was great. But then as people started interacting, they're like, I don't think that's right. I want to boost this, or I want to change this. Well, going away from the patterns that AI was looking for in the conversion rate, our conversion rate dropped. So the more that we had human hands into what should be boosted or what should be changed or what did they think was more relevant, we actually saw a decrease in conversion rate. Because, and I call it human meddling because I think there's certain things that AI and machine learning is really good at, and there's certain things that humans are really good at. And I think it's really important to understand, at least in that example, like what are the roles and what do they play, and making sure that it's really understanding so that you get the best benefit.
Great. All right. Well, we're about out of time, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this question. So I'm going to ask each of you to answer this one, and I only want you to take 30 to 45 seconds to answer this. What's one prediction you'll make for AI in 5 years? Recognizing, of course, that 5 years ago, none of us knew what most of us didn't know what generative AI was. So what's one prediction you'll make for AI in 5 years?
In 5 years. There's a bunch of fun things that could happen. I think robot surgeries and no people in it anymore, or just diagnosis like this. WebMD on steroids, maybe. I think it will replace some jobs, but I also think that it will empower many, many others to do their job more efficiently. And I think if we look at the retirement rate today, and I can't get technicians already. If somebody knows how to turn a wrench on a forklift, please see me after, because it is dismal. Making people more effective in their job, help them troubleshoot on a forklift and make them faster, that would be fantastic. But I mean, the FMT thing is kind of scary, isn't it?
It is kind of scary. All right, Jen?
Terminator.
Why'd you have to bring that up?
I stole it
Where's
from
Tom?
you,
Where's
sorry.
Tom?
I think you're going to have AI, programming AI.
That's good.
I think we're going to have AI and bots, and I'm going to have a bot that is going to do my laundry and my dishwasher, and that is what I am predicting, that the hardware AI is kind of on the ramp, and I have attended a couple of local, even Milwaukee Tech Summit groups, and even like folks who are doing things in their basement of creating arms that would do like physical things of moving things or making you a coffee in your house. The things that I've seen like from the local Milwaukee tech community has been amazing. So my prediction is that AI is going to go into the hardware side of things, and eventually we all will be able to afford from Amazon a bot that would do laundry and dishwasher.
That's great.
Cooking too. There is, I will find the name of the company, but there is a company, it was on Shark Tank. They actually created a full AI-based a dish, like, an ingredient thing, and you just say, I want pasta, like penne rosa pasta, and it would actually make it for you, because all the ingredients were loaded in there. I'll look it up and I'll share it.
I think in business, I think we'll all get much more efficient at our roles, from developers to executives, and hopefully it will be much easier when you take an afternoon to go from a conference to go back and go through 200 emails a lot quicker than without it. I think in our own personal world, I think it will probably get our heads up out of the phone, and it will probably more be integrated with our glasses and things like that, where we can ask it questions and understand the meanings of the context of conversations, and just have little extra things going up instead of, my kids at the dinner table are always, we'll have an argument or disagreement on something, get stuck, they pick up their phone and start asking ChatGPT to prove that they're right and I'm wrong. We can just feed all that into our glasses and be looking up a little bit more.
That's great. The one prediction that I will make is that our fear of AI will diminish significantly. Not because the opportunities won't be there, but because we will actually be better at actually controlling. But that will also mean that we will acknowledge that everything is listening, everything is watching at every time. But we'll do a better job of managing that information, and we will start to get comfortable with the fact that AI is ever present in all of our activities. So with that,
Except the Terminator.
With that, thank you all very much for being willing to listen and engage with us. Panel participants, thank you very much for sharing this.
Thank you.